How's life been treating you? It's, like I said, it's been a long time.
It's been really good. Probably the best year of my life or so.
Nice. That's awesome to hear, mate. What brought you back?
Well, around the time I did coaching with you last time, like
Yep.
shortly afterwards, I just kind of lost interest in comp for a long time.
Yep.
Uh, I'm really annoyed because I was like 2 wins away from getting GM, but I just lost interest in comp. Didn't play for many months. Like last year when they did like the double rank resets back to back, I
Yep.
got back into comp again. I wanted to try again to get masters or get grandmaster because I hoped
Yeah.
that with like the rank resets it'd be easier. I found out it was a lot harder after that. I
Yep.
got really annoyed that I was stuck in diamond, and then I kind of quit until recently where I got back into comp again
Okay.
and just been trying to make this last push, trying to stay really committed onto playing Overwatch consistently, not quitting until I at least get back into Masters, and really trying
Yeah.
to get GM.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Since well, first off, welcome back. That's good to hear you that you're back. But ultimately, why now? Like what? Because you didn't cancel the session. You know, obviously a lot has changed since then. So, what does your motivation look like, and why particularly?
Um, I really enjoy the new update with the perks. It really
Yep.
shakes up the game, and I think
Yep.
gives a lot of room to kind of learn and improve how, like on like a micro level of how all these perks are going to interact,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's kind of exciting for me.
Sure.
And then also with them making it like easier again to get into Grandmaster. I think it was like what 4 or 5 times harder before,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and now they're making it quite a bit easier. That's got me interested. And then last season, the season beforehand, I was playing Tracer. I was just doing a whole lot of Tracer, not really playing support at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a ton of fun just learning Overwatch again.
Yeah.
And so I just want to get back into just learning and getting good at something again, not just trying to play the game mindlessly, you know?
Yeah, yeah, okay, okay. Where are you at rank wise right now? I know it's a bit of a mess right now, but
Diamond 1.
okay, diamond one. Okay, so it's not too shabby. Uh,
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, in our first session, we talked a lot about all the basics of like training schedule and training sessions and so on. Are there any details or questions since you've last booked a session?
I don't think so. No, not in that regard.
Okay, so all's clear on that front and the fundamentals. Now, your form may or may not be up to date, but it's got some interesting notes kind of talking about like your mentality with training and obviously like taking some responsibility in yourself, but also just, you know, you are the scapegoat, like Lucio just is usually.
Hmm.
And then even from you, like you needing an outside perspective, some sort of objectivity about what you're doing wrong. Where are you at with those two difficulties right now?
I think my mentality has been better since then, but I don't know if it's truly like fixed in any regard.
Of
I
course.
think it's just heavily tied to my win rate. I've been winning more games, so I've been feeling better about myself.
Okay. Okay.
I'll have to see if I go into like a week or so where I keep on losing games if I'm actually still able to maintain this better mentality. But
Sure.
we'll
Sure.
see.
Well, if things were to start going poorly, like how could you mitigate this problem? So instead of thinking about like my mentality is better or worse, what are your habits like in terms of your mentality, or in terms of how
Hmm.
you're practicing, in terms of how you're training, in terms of the things that you tell yourself or the goals that you set for yourself? Do you feel better equipped for that if that does happen?
I think so, yeah. I've found that VOD reviewing actually really helps me fix that
Yes.
because I can like look through my gameplay and see, oh, no, okay, but my teammates weren't playing me for nothing. I actually did
Yep.
make a mistake
Yep.
here.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
not just being a scapegoat. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
improve here. And
Yeah.
that makes me excited to be like, okay, I can
Yeah.
actually improve. I'm not just
Yeah.
stuck forever.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny that you brought that up. It brings to mind an anecdote from back when I was with Spitfire in 2021. Working with that team was kind of a dumpster fire, and there's a couple of players that just were really not giving it their all the time, which made it really difficult. If I had been head coach, I think things would have changed a little bit in terms of who was actually on the team. But there's one player in particular who really tried really hard and just got really frustrated over it. I mean, really two players. There's Hadi and Molfig, right?
Hmm.
And I remember we would have a lot of really rough days in scrims or practices, and I'd always find myself a VOD reviewing with those two guys in particular because it was honestly very therapeutic for them. I know to just go back and be like, oh yeah, yeah, it's so attainable, right? Like it's so within our reach. Like
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
duh, like I did that, like you know, and so full honesty, like given the circumstance of like who we had in the team and the practice quality, our chances of like actually doing top was just zero, right? Like I was, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it allowed us to kind of feel like, okay, we can win games, like we can win maps, we could punch up, we don't have to finish last place, right? And that was it. Like you said, there is something encouraging in seeing because it's the attainable mistakes, right? It's like, oh, like
Hmm.
I should know better than that. Like that's all right. I just need to address that, right? Like you said, it
Yeah, yeah,
definitely
yeah.
helps with that. Okay. Any questions about I guess anything, right? Like we normally we would have gone a little bit more thorough, but this is not your first session, so
Yeah. So I wrote a little doc here of some points that I wanted to bring up. Four of these are like flaws I noticed in myself, and one of them is just a general question. I'll start with a question.
let's do it.
This is something that I watched a video from SK where she was like
Hmm.
breaking down one of her contenders matches and like analyzing her gameplay really in depth.
Yeah.
And something she talked about that I hadn't really heard of before was like the idea of not stacking two supports on one position.
Yep.
That's generally a bad idea. If someone's going out of
Yep.
flank, you should have a support with them.
Yep.
And I've tried to implement that quite a bit. But what I wrote down here is, should I prioritize being where I believe I am the strongest, or prioritizing not stacking both supports on one location? Example, Sojourn goes off to take an angle, but is not in a position where I will get much value myself, and she is not diveable. Do I plus one her angle or stay with the rest of the team?
I would say play with the rest of the team. I think the priority is always on what gives you the most selfish value, and then when in
Hmm.
doubt, play with the teammate on the angle that, like, play with a teammate, right? So, I get this question all the time. It's a really good question because you're like, which angle do I take when I have two options, right? You should
Yeah.
probably always take the one that leans more into your strengths, even if it means doubling up just a little bit. Optimally, like if this is like team coaching, I would be like, all right, Kiriko, you should be going with your hit scan on the longer sight lines, and Lucio with tank or with flanker on the shorter flanks, right? Like that's just textbook
Yeah, yeah.
compositional setup. But obviously in ranked, you can't really micro that stuff. So you really just have to play the location or the angle that holds the most value. Now, the exception to that rule would be if, like, let's say you have four people stacked on the same angle. Even if that angle is good for you, it might be better to find a different angle, even if it's not optimal, just so that you actually have an angle. Because being five stacked, even if the position is good for you, is generally really not that good. Like I
Yeah.
would honestly take even a bad angle at that point in time over literally no angle whatsoever.
Hmm. Yeah, that ties pretty well into the first like big flaw that I noticed. This is what I've really been focusing on
Yeah.
in this season of just trying to really improve, is that I just tend not to take angles or control high ground enough. I
Yep.
just kind of play with the team.
Yep.
Especially when things get like stressful and confusing. It's just that that's what I kind of default back to because it's
Right.
easy and it just works.
Right.
And I oftentimes when I'm like analyzing a VOD of myself, I'm like, wow, I was just soft throwing this entire game because I
Yep.
never did anything active at all.
Yep.
And I've
Yep.
been better about it as the season's gone on, but not perfect.
The hard part about Lucio is it's like there's a lot of characters that you can kind of just exist on an angle and get passive value on. I think a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
example of that would be like a Cassidy, right? Like you can control so much space with the Cassidy, even if your mechanics are not that good, just by threatening space, right? It's not hard. But when you
Yeah.
talk about characters like Wrecking Ball, Tracer, Lucio, they're specifically movement focused characters. Positioning is never as simple as just put yourself in this position, right? You also have to
Yeah.
move within that space, utilizing wall ride or whatever. And so oftentimes, I find this when I play Lucio, right? Like I'll know all the right positions to play usually, but my goodness, I can't do it. Like I just can't do it. Like
Yeah.
I can't. I don't have the tech. I don't have the hours spent. So knowing the good positions sometimes isn't good enough. You also have to have the mechanical capability to do so. And sometimes when you're thinking about that mechanics of your movement, you then forget to think about, well, at what angle should I actually be on, right? So it's like this
Mhm.
is why Lucius has such a high skill ceiling, is being able to balance those two things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Second point here, this one's a much easier or simpler one, is just that
Sure.
I tend to use boop really carelessly and just kind of waste
Yep.
it. Like either
Yep.
just missing it because I feel like, oh, a person's on my screen, I should boop him, and then he's already
Yep.
off the screen and I miss, or just booping someone when they don't really need it.
Yep.
That's just a bad habit that I can just
Yep.
kind of break over time.
Yep. I think like the key thing would just to be every single time that you get in an engagement, asking yourself like, is boop relevant to this engagement? Because
Yeah.
about 45% of the time the answer is no, right? So you
Hmm.
really can just do whatever you want, right? But obviously, like it's like it is that next level of cooldown management where you have to kind of look at it, be like, okay, does the timing of my boop actually matter here? And if it does, it's really important that you don't just use it.
Yeah. Number three here, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I let toxic teammates get into my head too much, even to the
Yep.
point that even when no one has said anything in a game, I expect them to, and have an imaginary debate in my head with them rather than focusing in the game. This is kind of an ADHD thing, to be honest, but
Yeah.
also an ego/insecurity thing too.
Yeah, there's no real answer to this one, right? Like the idea is that like you kind of have to. It's not so much about don't think the negative thoughts, but it's always about crowding those thoughts out elsewhere. So
Yeah, that's what I try and do. It doesn't always work too well, but
Yeah,
sometimes able to
it
get back into
doesn't
the game.
because you can always crowd it back in, right? Like you're trying not to think about it, and then you start thinking about it. It's like it's really just to put something else at the forefront, right? It's about the whole mindset of replacing a bad habit with a good habit. Instead of thinking about what your teammates are thinking, you should be thinking about where you need to be positioned next fight, and thinking about your mechanics and thinking about your wall running and so on.
Yeah.
The reality is that like, and this is where I think getting into gosh, I don't. This is going to be a little bit dramatic, but life experience within Overwatch can really help because I've played enough Overwatch and I've mained enough characters for enough time to know that there are certain characters that get hated on more, but honestly, it just doesn't matter what you do or what you play or like or what rank you are. You're going to have like a certain percentage of games where somebody's just going to call you a slur, and like there's just literally no avoiding it. Like it's just physically impossible. And so for you, it's just like you think it's a Lucio problem, and it partly is, but it's discouraging and both encouraging, but there's literally nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So it's like if whatever helps you to cope with it, think of them as morons, mute the chat, mute the voice, like you said, even when they're not even saying it to it's still in your head, or just simply crowd it out with more productive thoughts. Like Lucio is a good character for ADHD because there really is a lot you can and should be thinking about.
Yeah. Usually I try and mute the people who are just being toxic, but sometimes it's like if the entire team is all dogfighting me, I'll just have to mute all chat. And that makes it harder not to or it makes it harder to avoid thinking about it, because usually how I lock into the game is just by making callouts. Because if I'm making callouts, I have to think about what I'm saying, so I have to think about the game. But if everything's muted, then I can't really make callouts anymore.
Yeah,
and then
I don't
I'm
know.
just
I
thinking
mean,
about it.
it's tricky. Like, there's like a lot of potential solutions here. One is to train with chat off more often and focus on calling out to yourself, or practice queuing without relying off of voice comms. Like, like we got freaking Harry Potter. What's the wordless magic? What do they talk about, right? Like you got to be able to make those decisions without calling out loud, right? Like that's a really nice skill to have. The other solution would be joining a team, right? Getting a couple of scrims a week where you actually can scratch that itch of like getting that communicational stuff, and then feel like when I go into ranked, it's okay if I don't practice calls. I just need to worry about my mechanics. There's a lot of experiments, but if you're dedicated to that, focus more on how you're practicing and the system of how you're approaching, and instead of just trying to tough it out, right? Like that's fine and all, but like really, really look at your approach.
Okay, that's interesting. And then the last point I have here is that I tend not to respect range heroes enough, primarily Ashe and Sojourn. I peek them too much and get poked down quite often, so I can't engage anymore. I'm also not very practiced with 1v1ing them, since no one plays them in deathmatch.
Yep. Well, practice 1v1ing them, but think about your approach, right? So, again, the answer here is just, 1v1 them, but don't do so from 25 meters, right? Like I think there's this mindset that this happens with tracers sometimes as well, where it's like my movement can just be better, my 80-80 strafing, but you have to blink through them, right? And same thing with Lucio, like you just have to close the distance. Like there just isn't, as you get better, they're going to get better too, right? You got to think about like what skills are going to scale, and closing the distance scales really well. So instead of thinking, oh, I need to stop peeking Ashe, instead think about, okay, how do I approach this Ashe? It's the same end goal, but the approach is different, right? So it's not the shooting the Ashe is the problem. It's the where you are when you shoot the Ashe is the problem. So again, it's still trying to shift the way that you're thinking about the problem itself. And then ultimately, if they're not being played in deathmatch because they're not very good in deathmatch, okay, go practice in ranked. Go Frogger mode. Like if that's fine. That's a legitimate. It's not even a play style. It's just a skill that you have to have. Like every successful Lucio in the history of Overwatch 2 especially has had that Frogger in him. It's not an option. You have to have it.
Yeah.
Anything
I
else?
was going to say something, but I lost train of my thought.
No, it's okay.
No, it's gone. Probably doesn't matter. That's okay.
Sure. If it comes up later, just let me know. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so. Should we go into a VOD review?
Yeah, let's do it. All
right. I have a few VODs prepared, but this one I think is the most important to look at. In this game, they had a Trace enemy team who I spent a lot of time contesting, and I think that some of that was really productive, but I think that I probably overdid it a little bit, gave her too much attention.
Sure. Reactive proactivity and predictive proactivity, amp speed on tank still second guess speeds. Okay, we'll take a look here. If any questions come up, let me know. Now, why this code in particular? I think this is a pretty decent Lucio map for the most part.
Yeah. Well, I chose it because dealing with dive has been something I've noticed I've actually struggled with this season. I don't know if dive
Power
is
crept a
meta
little
right now.
bit.
I'm not really sure, but it's like when there's one dive character, it's pretty easy for me. But when there's multiple, I tend to perform pretty badly, and it's a problem I've noticed a lot throughout this entire season. And I think this is just a good example of that. Kind of over focusing on one thing, not being I don't know what the word is, flexible enough.
Sure.
And then also, I think it's a good, long, and really close competitive game, which I
Sure.
think are the best for
Works
coaching.
for me. Now it's interesting with dive because you are fragile to dive.
Yeah.
Especially with like think about it this way, like you are like you're like a needle, right? You're really 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 good at dealing like with one little problem. You're very finesse, but when things start to pile up, even though a needle is made of steel, it's gonna bend, it's gonna break. It's equipped for small doses, but it's not equipped for a lot of weight. And so if you look at the enemy composition, you could deal with a Tracer, you could deal with a Winston just fine, but Winston and Tracer, well, all of a sudden your survivability becomes more important, right? You're going to have a lot more responsibility, so you need to expect that, right?
Yeah.
So you should still try to deny as much as their value, but it's all you still need to understand your limitations, right? Like if you've ever watched Lucio play. And high-level dive comps, like Esperanza at the highest level. If you've watched Winston Tracer, Winston Sombra Tracer especially, right? Lucio's playing a lot, just as much hide and seek as a Zenyatta. Like really,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you like the fact that he's being played is more about I can stay alive even when I'm under threat. It's not about the protecting your teammates as much. So okay, so take some space here. This is fine. And this is fine because this is good space for you, right? This is fine because you were generally floating here looking for an angle to take, and this is as good as this one. Now, the rule, I don't know how many of my recent reviews you've seen, but my new and improved Spylo coaching is you're focusing off of convenience. So if you were already on this angle here, I would not want you crossing to deal with a target. It's more about putting yourself in a position that makes sense and then doing what that position allows you to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I've seen every high-level Lucio
Good.
coaching you've done. I think I know all the main
Okay,
points.
perfect. So this is fine, and this just comes down to strict 1v1. Who's going to win this one out? And I don't mind you doing this. So this might be where like you have a little bit of micro about how you take the 1v1. So like for example, right here.
I don't like this position. Yeah, I shouldn't have gone there.
You shouldn't have gone here. It's a little bit of an overextension, but there's also some details about the boop itself as well. Because the reality is like you've shot a full clip here. When is this blink gonna come out? You get what I'm saying? Like it's of course gonna come out here. Like when else would it come out, right? So if you were to blink here or boop here, when would you boop?
Probably after the blink or right away.
Right away, right? Like you shoot your 3 and boop immediately, like right now. Like it needs to be now, or don't boop. Turn and then boop here, right? Or let her blink again and then boop now, right? That's kind of your timing is either really soon or really late, right? Basically not giving her the basic shoot a half a clip, blink, shoot a half a clip, blink. That's too simple, right?
Yeah.
So to be honest, this is just a question of not being as smooth with your cover, not being as respectful of the matchup, and then just not knowing the micro or being as comfortable with the micro in the Tracer 1v1, because now she gets this angle for free. That's your fault. Now, I appreciate that you didn't die for it, but yeah, go ahead.
I think a big part of that comes down to where I fought her specifically. If we stayed in the small room, I have a really big advantage over her because she can't move around as freely and I can boop her into walls. But in open space, like by that health pack, she has a huge advantage there.
Sure.
That's the Lucio and Tracer 1v1 all comes down to the room. If it's in a small room, Lucio almost always wins. Big room, Tracer almost always wins.
Okay, so there you go.
Let's do it faster.
This angle's fine.
I feel this in my bones.
And this is where you start to second guess some of your decisions, right?
Yeah.
I think there was either nerves here or feeling like you were too far split, like you were isolated. I think you were in the right spot. Like this, again, we talk about architecture, right? This is Lucio architecture, right? You got some verticality, you have small rooms, you have wasted drop, you have health packs, you're controlling an angle. You leave this, your team suffers. You leave this, your team suffers, and look at what it immediately is vacated. What is filled once you vacate, right? This is your fault. This is your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Now, to give you credit, you swing, waste time, but you do find another angle to control. So that's good. But that's putting lipstick on a pig. It shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. Control the angle. And this is where chasing targets is very dangerous, right? Nice. That's the blink that, and the, I would be more confident here, frankly.
Yeah, I was worried if her Ashe was going to be around there. I wasn't sure where she rotated to.
Yeah, of course, but you still want to kind of control this space and then look to take the duel and then rotate from here to maybe here, or from here to here, right, or here to meeting back up with your team. But like again, it's a cost of convenience, right? You need to win this duel. You gave yourself an advantage. Play like it, right? Yep, it's fine. Sure. Just chill. We walk forward. Yeah, this is fine. So here's what you would do is you'd always look at like, how is my initial angle? Is it good? Is it bad? Okay, then how did I perform mechanically from that position? That's pretty much all Lucio is. That's how a lot of characters are. Now, when we talk about how you perform mechanically, in terms of your cooldown management, boop usage, wall running, and so on, that's where you can get really lost in the weeds, right? It's totally,
yeah.
But ultimately, the gameplay loop is pretty simple. So I would critique your initial gameplay loop, but then once you kind of stayed there, it was okay. I'd be cautious about this. I think you're a little too far forward.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's kind of what I talked about there. It's not a great execution from you, but the idea is that like you just kind of being bait there and not dying is very useful, right? Very useful. And then you can continue to contest from here, and then once you break bubble, you can then walk forward back to the geometry that makes sense for you. So there it is. There's Suzu, there's bubble, and now he's dead. And then you go after Tracer. Why?
I was there. She was on my screen, and I know I'm going to deal with her.
You said the words. She was there, right? So, now you don't have amp. So this is where things can get a little bit saucy. So be careful. Just because you're up one doesn't mean anything. It costs you to get to up one. Can you predict whether this Tracer is a recall or not?
She probably has it.
She probably does, right? It doesn't. Well, also she just hasn't done anything, right? Like where she's been, and she hasn't put out a lot of pressure, so she should have it. So why is that important for you here?
The recall versus amp, like that's the main cooldown.
Correct. So you need to take a deep breath here and chill. Right? Don't throw the advantage that you have. So like this right here is just atrocious. Now actually the boop is okay because it's in theory it's fast enough for you to in theory get it off, but you should lose this 1v1.
I probably do.
Yeah, and that's it.
Lost me, yeah,
and that's the toss, right? It's not we can blame mechanics till the cows come home, of course, right? But the decision to take that was really poor. 3 blinks, recall, full resources. You see one up, you go in. No. It costs you your soul to get that kill instant, right? So take a deep breath, mark the Tracer cautiously, and then as you get an advantage, you can push it. You hit a couple of shots, you see recall, you see a couple of blinks. Sure, but that was not it. And if we look, she's got a recall.
Yeah.
It was just not possible for equally skilled Lucio to beat equally skilled Tracer on that angle. And so what should have been an easy slam dunk is now a fight where actually we're at best even. Yep. Yeah, stay here. Oh, that's unfortunate. That was almost really. I mean, your positioning there was fine. You have nothing.
Yeah, I think I got too excited about killing the Mercy.
It was an opportunity. The angle was good. Again, the architecture was there. Oh, that's unfortunate. You went outside the bubble. Did you? I think. Yeah. I forget that the points like.
Oh yeah, right here. I got so annoyed with the cat because I thought, oh, I'm falling. And then the cat, I was like, what?
It's like a sphere, I think, or some. It's more like a cylinder, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, all the new maps have pretty low contest boxes. It's kind of annoying.
So yeah, I would just disengage hard here. Crap. This is fine. You should be able to get your queen out. So. Wait, there's no shot. Your Moira lifts. That's crazy. Okay, yeah, this is fine. I know beat complicates things a little bit here. Now, this is again where I feel you leaning here, but I really consider this angle probably evolves a little bit better for you. So this is more map knowledge, whereas you going from here to here was a poor decision strategically. You starting here and choosing here when you could have equal choice for both is I'm not going to hang my hat on it because I haven't coached enough Lucio in this map, but it feels right. It feels like this evolves better for you as the fight goes on.
Yeah.
As opposed
It's also
to this.
harder for them to get to. The other side, they can just walk there. Anyone
True.
can go there. But
True.
the left side,
True.
they have to have mobility
Yeah.
or go all the way to the stairs.
Yeah. True. So this is not great, but you're consistent here. I'm just being more. This needs to be more experience on this map.
Yeah.
Boop distance, sure. That's kind of a no-brainer. Now I would like you to be pushing an angle here. I think that your beat is influencing your decisions here, but I don't think I don't think it's enough. I really don't. I don't think.
Okay, so you don't think playing passive with beat's a good idea?
It's not so much about passive versus aggressive. It's about angle versus none.
Okay.
I mean, look at the space that you're controlling right now. This is not friendly architecture.
Yeah.
You know, like you are in a damage boosted Ash's angle, right? This isn't going to work. If you were to say controlling space here, deepening here, you know, or even just playing with your soldier, not because playing the soldier, but because this is just an angle, right? This just isn't it.
Okay, yeah.
Ults, if anything, just change the type of angle that you control, but very rarely do ults mean that you don't take an angle. Very rarely, especially with the range that beat has.
Yeah, okay, I'll have to think about that more. Usually I just try to be passive when I have beat.
Yep. Again, it's not about passive versus aggressive,
yeah,
right? Yeah, it's angle versus none. This is fine. Yeah, this is good. Like that was the opposite, right? That was the opposite. You saw that she had blown recall and you had full amp, so you go after her, right?
Yeah.
So that was good. That was a good decision. Now the Winston also chases, right? But you managed to survive. You recognize, okay, it's a 2v1. I got to live. And guess what? You do. So now look at where the pressure is on your tank, or on your bastion, or on your soldier. Completely non-existent. You've been the bait.
Yeah.
You've been the bait. And that's what Lucio can do, right? It's not just about peeling dive. It's even sometimes baiting that pressure. And you do just fine. I'd be a lot more cautious here, right? This is not.
I think I forgot about Winston.
Yeah, you forgot about Winston. Yeah, that's basically it. But no harm done. The concept's the same, whether it's a 2v1 or you have amp and she, doesn't have recall, or you don't have amp and she does have recall. It's just knowing when you have an advantage and knowing when you have a disadvantage and behaving appropriately, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is fine. And you know that it costs her blinks to do what she just did, so you could be very aggressive.
Yeah.
And then now she's far away, but she's no longer a threat, so you go back and find my architecture.
Probably early. Should have waited for Winston.
Yeah, just because it's more about like the heroes that you're playing with, right? Like there should just be a confidence that, okay, these guys probably are not going to get one shot. There's no like, yeah, it's. I find it hard to criticize it from like a strategic standpoint. Just like know the situation. You're probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is good. You were right, so you might as well go right. You know the situation. And just like those shots right there means that you could really do whatever you want in this duel. Recall or no recall. So I'm actually surprised that you even thought about going left because this is really good. Okay.
I think I was looking for her. I think I thought she blinked in.
Yeah. Another moment, by the way, a little bit of a tidbit here because I understand why you went here, but again, don't do it. Don't do it. You're closer to value here. Put pressure here, right? With or without the queen. It's better. Keep this Ashe honest because the reality is that like this is where you die. Watch this Ashe's POV. Right there, you see it?
Yeah, I'm just out in the open in front of her.
Yeah, it's out in the open. It's also downtime. That transition is downtime. But yeah, other than that, okay. There's been some good moments of marking the tracer. The screw-ups are knowing when you had a man advantage or whether you had resource advantages or not, right? And sometimes crossing, right? Come on. Any questions so far?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll see more examples of what I talked about the more that we see here. I think this is a really good map for Lucio too, so.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think on this round is where I felt like I gave Tracer too much attention.
Well, the nice thing about Lucio is that if you don't have to push out an angle, you can kind of just exist on the angle, do damage, and provide RF value, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't like this because if there's nobody here, just go back and control the angle that feels comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Right? There's no real reason for you to go all the way around out back unless you want to go Reddit on their Widow or whatever. But like there's nothing here. So you don't have to go look for it. It will come to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure. I would have been a little bit more confident there. I think maybe you were like, this fight's already lost, but
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was why.
recall for amp there. You're probably okay. Unfortunate. But then yeah, she's dead, so then you just back off. Just a bit messy from you in terms of how you positioned. Lean right side, it's better for you. Yep. There's a recall, so you could be a little bit more aggressive on that. Yeah, just I know it hurts, but don't go back. Don't go back.
Yeah.
You are not the character to go back. I mean, if there's anybody to go back, maybe a Kiriko, right? But not a Lucio. It's just not going to be enough. By the time you get here, it's probably already dead, and amp heal is just one of the weakest defensive cooldowns in terms of raw healing output in the game. It's just not worth it. Control the value here. Pressure here. Rotate here. Distract. Harass. Trade. Go rotate towards here. Play slow, but you lose your angle here. I mean, really, what are you doing here? Right? He dies anyway. You're inside. You're getting cleaved. And then now you've also lost space. Do you see the failure there?
Yeah, I could have done something aggressive on the right side.
And ultimately, like, what kills your... Sorry, but what kills your Moira here? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, she died because the supports had free reign.
This is your responsibility from your angle, right? What is this in the elbow? Is that? But I think that's the point here, is that like peeling is pressure, is something that I've said for years, and this is like the perfect example of it. Or pressure is peeling, rather, where you could committed to this angle and then second guess your decision to go all the way back and then failed in any way, right? So that's the thing. It's not so much about like I'm giving Tracer too much attention or I'm giving Winston too much attention. It's that you're thinking too much about, oh, I have to deal with this character, when that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to control short sightline space, which will often be congested with Tracers and Winstons.
Yeah.
But what if they're not there?
Be there anyways and beat up the backline.
Be there anyways. Right. Beat up the backline. Exactly. That's the rule. That's the rule. Everything Overwatch is literally just people fighting for space that works for their characters. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not about matchups.
What I was gonna say earlier was something I've been really trying to focus on with playing against dive. Kind of what we're talking about right now is just that when I'm playing against a full dive comp like this, well, they're not exactly full dive, but a majority dive comp like this.
I got what you're saying.
When I end up defaulting, going back to the team, just trying to support them, I almost always die and the fight gets lost. But when I commit to an angle, even if it's not like defending a tracer or something like that, even if I commit to an angle, like just to shoot their backline, it works so much better because they can't kill me there. It's way harder for them to get me.
Yep. Have you ever watched any high level Lucio VODs from recent, like OWCS stuff?
No.
You should. Okay. You should.
Are
You'd be
like
very enlightened.
good Lucio players there? Because I before in old Overwatch League days, I didn't like watching any Lucios in pro play because they would just kind of AFK with their team. Most of them, at least.
Let's see here. Let me look up OWS Sojourn. Frogger, Violet. Violet might not be bad. Bliss is also pretty good here, I think. Let's look at Bliss here. So I'm trying to see here. Midtown. Let me see if I can find anything here. Bliss is 6 months ago. What's this matchup here? So this is a Brawl matchup. This is Malgakiri. Oh, this will be fun. Okay, let's just take a side quest here. You down?
All right. Yeah, sure.
Let's do this. Let's look at Bliss. I found a map where he's playing versus some dive stuff. Let's take a look. And this is a little bit ago, but it shouldn't change things too much.
Okay.
Now, versus high-level dive, you're going to see a little bit more compression of where and how far they split, because they will be very, very fast at basically punishing you if you split too far, get to unfriendly space. So can you see my screen here? Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look here. And this would be something to keep an eye on, too. See if there's any more VODs here. Okay, so again, comp doesn't super matter.
The speed change on the door?
This is 6 months ago, yeah.
Okay. Wow, that was not recent, huh? I thought that was long ago.
So he goes, oh crap, they're pressing us out of space. Let's rotate away. And then keep in mind, this is team play, too. So this is like coordinated rotations, the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a team push this way before.
It's really good for more range. That's just why they got cast sim, so they're rotating long here.
Yeah.
Now look at this from your perspective. Why is he being so quote unquote passive, at least initially?
It was just really good for him to be here with his entire team, and then the Tracer was on the angle, but he was still with his team, so he didn't have a reason to go push somewhere else.
Think about the architecture again too, right? This is probably the worst. He's the least happy player on this team in terms of this rotation, right? Like this is
right
not
now,
a good space for Lucio to be. Why?
It's open. There's not really any walls around.
Right. It's completely open. But it was good for the rest of his team. So if this was ranked, you could actually see a world here where some pressure from this angle, from like a Frogger angle, would actually be okay. But in the meantime, hey, I could actually play with my team here and control the shortest angle that I can here. So if I'm playing Lucio in ranked, I don't want to be here, but because my entire team is here, I have to.
Yeah.
You see how passive he's playing? Why?
Is he scared of the dive?
Yeah. Here's a question for you. Do you think he could have safely marked either left or right angle?
I think he could have gone right side safely.
Like control space here?
Yeah, or even further up before the Tracer did all those blinks. I think he could have not committed to fighting her, but stay like hovering on the wall nearby and put shots into her.
I agree. I think this is a mistake. So when you watch pro players, don't feel like, oh, I'm not smart enough. They're playing perfectly. Feel free to like look at them for ideas, but also criticize. Think about, okay, I don't think this is that good. So like right now, I see recall. I might push forward a little bit more aggressively here. I don't want to. I think he's mostly scared of the Echo. The Echo and Diva is like the real problem.
Oh, your stream died.
Can you still see?
Okay, it's back. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at a different point here. So look, a different point entirely. Okay, Winston now. Let's see how he plays here. What do you think about this?
I think he could have committed on that, but I guess he didn't have the knowledge to be confident.
Yeah. What do you think about this?
A little bit waste of time, but not the worst.
What do you think about this?
I think he's playing with his team too much. I think he's not taking his own space.
Why would you think he might be doing that? Any guesses?
I guess it is pro play, but it's a little bit different.
Well, it doesn't matter as much about pro play. It's more about this one very important variable here. Look what Yubi's on.
Sim. Okay.
Yeah, they're doing sim team 5-man rotates a lot of the time here.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he may also be wary of Echo, because she can really beat you up on a point.
Yeah. You get a little too sneaky with it, you might just get cooked. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to skip forward to another one here, and then we're going to look at a different Lucio entirely. Look at how aggressive he was positioned there. He knew where Tracer was. He had the verticality, amp speed to disengage. Probably beat that. He probably should have beat that.
I think he does here, yeah.
Let's go for one more point here. So different fight location. What do you think about this position here? Team rotates the point. He goes top. What do you think?
It's really good against a Winston. He wants to be there. But he gives it up right away. I guess they're rotating main, so it doesn't matter as much.
What do you think of this?
The amp usage?
Just in general, like how he's positioning. We'll focus on the positioning aspect right now.
Yeah. I think it's fine, like you said, with like the sim rotations, because he has to be there for the TP. But if they didn't have sim, I wouldn't like stacking with the entire team against a Winston. It's dangerous to go.
Where would you have played differently here? Like, let's say that they were kind of playing here. What would you do?
I think with this position, it's tough because left side, if no one else is there, it'd feel kind of useless. And going around right would be too dangerous. So I guess there is no other option in that specific moment.
It feels more about the micro, right? Like if he's gonna play here, not here, go here or here
up
instead,
on the wall.
right? So you're still on with your team, but you're like what? Like so that's like the key thing here. If we have like our perfect like mindsets, like the Kiriko and the deep angle, the hit scan, the loose, right? But that's not always gonna happen. So can I split from the clump? Can I go on a 1 o'clock angle or 11 o'clock angle and not a 6 o'clock angle? Like, I don't need to be on a flank here or flank here. I just need to be up on the wall here and not here.
Yeah.
Right? And you nailed it, right? Why is he doing this? Well, TP. 5-man stack for TP. That's why. So then as this fight evolves, now we would want to see more of a split or more pressure from a height or more scouting and like what's going on. But you notice that they're not doing that. It's basically all they're doing is catching a dive. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is... Well, they did it again with teleport, right? They're literally, this is an entire gimmick to bait, teleport, teleport again. Bait, teleport, teleport again. Bait, teleport, teleport again. Let's look at another one here.
Yeah, it's a funny strat.
It is interesting. But I want you to be confident, and if you're going to spend a lot of time doing this, you should absolutely look at OWCS VODs and look for ideas for how they position.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I haven't really kept track of too much of like the pro scene for a few years. I don't know like who's good or not. But I've heard of Viol2t. Haven't seen much of their gameplay before.
Yeah, Viol2t is probably the greatest support player of all time. In terms of Lucio, I don't know, but he's insane. So we'll take a look here. This is more recent. Now this might be a bit of a meme game from Viol2t, but
a meme game? Why do you say that?
This is they're playing an Australian contenders team basically.
Oh,
and there are some really good players on this Australian contenders team.
Oh, they're playing against Frogger. Okay, yeah.
Frogger, Aki, Colorhex, Niang, Romani. Like these are actually like pretty solid players, but there's still a bit of a gap here. So let's take a look here. This is also a nice little matchup too. A little bit of dive, goes in aggressive, holds his angle.
Yeah, nice. I always like going on that bridge on the first fight.
But this should look more familiar in terms of how he's positioning.
Yeah.
Holds the angle, uses the cover.
Crossfade spans more than me.
Uh-huh.
Everyone has a bad habit.
Yeah, it's just ADHD. It's like the spray habit that old Overwatch 1 pros used to have. And you could see the dynamism of how he's rotating, like and how aggressive he moves and rotates when necessary. And just how aggressive his angles are, right? Like he is...
Yeah, very, very aggressive.
Very aggressive, right? He is... Situationally can be a very aggressive Lucio player in terms of how he rotates. Okay, let's keep going. Look at the hit squad with the Genji.
Oh, he doesn't stay with him.
He goes back.
Bit of an early amp, I think.
Uh-huh. And now he's got to be really careful here. You see the mistake here. Obvious mistake. What's the mistake?
Yeah, on the floor in front of a
terrible
Sojourner
space, right? So we talk about the dynamism of rotations just because this is high-level play, and so there's a lot of rotations and such, but this is not where he wants to be. Where's the next step for him? You tell me.
You know, with him being right here, it's hard. If he could get over by the rest of his team, like in that low ground, that'd be nice.
Right.
But he can't really.
Right. So it's really a question of when can I get through left, and then where would you go from left, from under the bridge?
Personal
expression, isn't it?
If someone's pushing up to stairs, that would be great. Going in alone, there might be a little bit too dangerous, especially with the Kyrie. Well, I guess Kyrie ults down now, but
but that is the question, right? Do I want to be able to go top? Okay, we'll keep going. Oh, you want to see a crazy shot? Check this out.
Did she hit that? Damn.
Yeah, I mean, Widow's not even meta. Chex is just trolling. Because they knew that they were screwed. It's like, we're not going to beat these guys.
Oh, okay.
Why is he staying here?
He wants the Kitsune buff, but I think he should be on a wall.
I agree.
Yeah, I tend to make the same mistake with Kitsune. I said it before. Amp heals.
It's good. It's good to call it before it happens, though, right? You called that.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I didn't think she was good either.
Yeah, I guess she just didn't have TP.
Oh, she had no teammates, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird moment where, like, think of Lucio as like a short-range character, and he is, but not in relation to tanks. Case in point, right? Like, you could see that he actually look at the hesitation he has when he swings this angle here, where you think that, like, and this is a good reminder, right? Like, he goes, oh, Queen's there. I don't want to be here. I need to back off just a little bit, right? Like, so you notice he actually plays more pokey on the tank, right? But as soon as the Widow or Sojourn's involved, he closes the distance. So he closes the distance on the Lucio, but even that, I mean, that's a crazy knife from Armani. But you got to see what I'm saying? Like, it's actually, Lucio's like this weird short-range character, but he cannot play with tanks. Brigitte actually has the same problem.
Oh, really? Okay.
Short-range off angles, as long as there's not a tank there. So it's like you want to get close to everything that's not a tank, and then you just whip the tank or boop the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was an overextension there.
That's a Viol2t special.
I think he didn't expect the Queen to be on that flank.
I mean, it's not something you'd expect from this level, right? But there it is. Because even, like, yeah, go for it.
Do you think that people in, like, upper ranks, like Masters, Grandmaster, and just regular competitive, should they try and emulate pros, or should they just try and play with what works best for them in comp?
Like, in terms of the playstyle or the heroes?
Yeah, the play style.
I mean, they should always emulate pros, but the problem is that the pros do things for certain reasons that you can't always... So, like, let's put it this way. The rules of Lucio are short-range off angles except for tanks. Like, there's just almost no exception to that rule. I think the previous VOD that we looked at from the Symmetra strat was like one of the very few exceptions, but almost no exceptions even in pro play. The problem is that what does it, like when I say short-range off angle, except tank. Right? Except tank.
Yeah.
So you have like a platinum Lucio look at that and they're like, well, I need to go in on the Reinhardt. But when I watch pro players, they're always like playing really passive on the enemy tank. Well, they just don't understand the concept in full. That's the problem. Right? So you should emulate pro players once you understand what they're actually doing. And so I think like this is why you can't just like surface level look for tips and tricks. This is why you can't just watch random streamers play the game and expect to completely emulate what they're doing. Like, you notice that even you, who has a relatively high level understanding of Lucio, we're still having to kind of think, you know, why did he do that? Was there actually a good reason for it, or was it a mistake? What about so you kind of have to go in with an understanding of base fundamentals, and the only way to get those base fundamentals is either to get coached or play the game for a long time. So I think it's fine. We're smart enough to interpret. Let's put it that way. Average plat player may not be.
Gotcha.
You see the angle, right? Like, here we go, you know? Why this angle and not the other angle? Like besides, oh, I'm with Genji. Like that's too easy. Seriously, why
for
this
one,
angle?
it's close, and then for two, the targets are good here.
Right, targets are good here, and this geometry just feels so much better than the other side. Right, so much less open. So it just makes sense for Lucio to be here.
The 360 beat.
That is Viol2t. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, well, okay, he does.
And then dies.
Okay. So we're gonna go back to your review here, and we're gonna kind of continue what we were talking about with maybe a little bit more perspective here. But I do encourage you, if you do have the time, take a look. There will be more Lucio VODs.
More Violet gameplay, because he's good. I didn't like watching Pro Lucio, because back in Overwatch 1, Lucios would just sit with tank amp speed when Ryan goes in.
You don't watch Overwatch 1 Lucio. Right, there's more people on the clump, so it was more valuable to get power off value, right? In addition to that, I think that he's received a lot of little micro buffs here and there that have allowed him to be more aggressive. And to be honest with you, I also just think the level of the game's improved. I think even if we went back to 66, I think people are just better. So, yeah, just staggering yourself a little here. Okay, let's see. Sure. Only acceptable because you have amp and you know the status of his bubble. Still scary though, right? Like, remember the rule. It's like, don't get close to this guy, right? Now there's exceptions, but you're going to need to be careful. So this is going to need to be an amp like right now. Okay, you agreed it. I respect it. Hindsight's 2020 there. Guess you didn't need it.
Yeah, I only really amp for a Winston if he's actually shooting me at that moment. I'm not too scared of him. He takes a little while to kill you.
Fair enough. That push right there, for example, only works because you have amp. I'm surprised you're not taking more space here. This is you expecting the Winston dive, but look what's on your screen.
Yeah, Queen could be. I could be with Queen right now, or I could be on the other side as well.
Right.
Like I can hover on the point on that pillar.
Right. You could be poking here. You could be baiting the Winston dive and forcing the primal here. Like, why are you letting this guy hold his primal? You know.
Yeah. You know, I think what I'm doing here is I think I know Tracer's coming back, and I'm worried about her. I think I was giving her too much attention when she wasn't even there.
Right. And then the question also is like, where's Tracer going to come from? She's got to come from an angle. So go, be there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's dead, right? So. Or he's either dead or he's not dead, and that's going to be completely outside of your value, right? Like, he's going to live or die with variables that are outside of your control. Sure. You have amp here. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I was going to say, think about it. Just how you approach is the crucial thing, right? You thought about it, but then you came from here, and that scared you. If you committed to here, maybe it's something that goes a little bit easier. I don't hate this, though. Like, you were already here, so it's fine.
Yeah. This is where I feel like I was giving her too much attention right here. I feel like pushing my team is way better for me right now.
Maybe. But where would that Tracer go if you weren't with her?
She would go after the soldier probably, but he has
No.
Bastion with him, so I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, but
Wait, no, he doesn't
yeah,
have Bastion, never
but
mind,
it's not so much about whether he'll be all right. It's about whether he could be doing other things, right? Like my point being is that you were already here. Just force the recall here. So
Okay.
to be honest with you, you just misplayed the 1v1. That's all.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have let her sneak past you and then get a recall. Because also she's got pulse bomb, right? Like you may not know that in the moment, but like, don't let her go. Mark the angle, and then if you decide, okay, she's no longer a threat, like now, okay, then now you don't chase. Right, if she's out, right? Now you can go back to your team and provide value. But I actually think what you did there was okay. This beat's good. I just don't like
I
going
wish I
back.
got more on my team, but they all went behind the wall after I did
Yeah,
it. So.
and I
Actually,
really-
that's one person. That
Yeah, and I
wasn't
really,
close.
really don't. I think it was fine. I really don't like you going back.
Yeah, okay.
Like, look at where you are and look at where enemies are. Like, this is it. Go. We need to go. Or at least hold this space here or mark the tracer here. If you go, this is not your friendly space. This is terrible.
Yeah.
You know? And then now look at where you're at. This is good, but the damage has been done. You gave her the angle. She gets a kill off of the angle, right? You either deny the angle or you commit to where you were. So a lot of your focus needs to be a little bit less focused on like the checklist of jobs that a Lucio should have, right? And more about the space that a Lucio should control and to just live with what you may.
Okay.
Because that's something that you can always do, right? You could just apply that to any situation, any comp, any map. It's not situational advice. I mean, this is fine. You're just trying to stall. I would take space here, right or left. There you go. Good. I wouldn't mind you playing more, like if you're struggling with Winston, probably playing the angle here so you can get that poke in without being too close to him, right?
Yeah.
Little detail, but this is okay. Yeah, this is good. Again, the boop sucks, but
Yeah, I keep
okay.
missing boop on her.
yeah. I mean, it's hard.
Gotta practice that.
It's an advantage that she should always have, but you should try to land 35, 40% of them, right? Don't do this. So you lost her. That's okay. Focus here. Look at what resources you have here. You're already here. Force the Suzu. Force the teleport. Like, force the Winston to jump you, then disengage. Like, you could take... Like, basically think about it this way. You may or may not be able to peel this. Probably not. But if he dies, they die here. Queen takes no damage. Your visor succeeds. Right?
Yeah, too little, too late.
Too little, too late, right? Could you have been there earlier? No, actually, no. Because why on earth would you be here?
Yeah, it would be a dumb spot for me.
Right, it'd be a dumb spot for you, right? So instead, be on the angle where you were. Get value out, because you made a good positional choice. You did a good job. So reap the rewards. And then now your queen's dead. And your visor fails. And the Kiriko lives. And this round is over. Okay, let's keep going. Any questions so far?
No,
Okay,
I don't think so.
let's keep using it. This one is pretty self-explanatory in how you position, right? Like you can do stuff here. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's rare.
But there's that, this is so uncomfortable, right? Like this is awkward. Now you can go through under and play around here. It's not terrible. And then if this is not terrible,
I like
it's
that
an
style
awkward
a lot
map.
better.
It's an awkward map for sure. But let's see what you do. Yep, this is fine.
I was anticipating Tracer to be here. I thought she wasn't even playing Tracer when she wasn't there.
Well, the strat is if nobody's there, what do you do?
Commit, go to the back line.
Commit, deepen, hold the space here, right? Hold the space. Go. You know, I don't hate even going back to your tank here and rotating here, right? But commit to where you've gone. But yeah, I do it like this is okay. Like it's not an angle. Let's be very clear. But that's kind of a good demonstration of like you were there, so you get value there. I would prefer you to deepen, just because an angle is better than no angle. And this is another one of those moments, right? Look what happens the second that you vacate the premises. You see it?
Yeah, he
Second
daps for
you
free.
leave. The second you leave, it's not that it was your job to stop that. It's your job to get value, and what you did here got no value. Like, if we want to delve into the micro here, Torb is built to live dives, right? Like that's why you're playing Torb, right? This would at least make a little bit more sense if you're playing Widow. Like that's like you're even here. Like, you're even. You could be fighting this. Like you could be going helping soldier or deepening here or harassing backline. Like this is fine. It feels very much like how Bliss was playing, but without the Symmetra teleport. You notice that?
Yeah. I am playing too much with the team.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a mechanical error. You just lost him.
Yeah, it was just a bad decision because what I wanted to do is I wanted to boop the monkey off before he could land on the soldier, and I did that, but I shouldn't have done that because the Ana was right there and I died to her.
Yes, partially true. I also want to highlight that you actually didn't boop him until he'd already landed on top of you, basically.
Oh, did he land already?
You didn't even see him. So look, so he jumps up, you miss him, and you're already getting zapped. He bam. Right?
Yeah, he does land, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that it was. I agree with you that the decision was probably not smart. Would have been better to just go kill the Ana or something like that. But yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh man, how many more quote unquote Winston counters are you guys gonna run? Oh my days. See, the problem here is that you guys are just gonna die to Ana Ashe, right? Like, and then that's it.
Yeah, when our tank went hog, that was probably the nail in the coffin there, because he's like the worst tank to play with Lucio. But they always do it because they think, I'm not getting heals, I go hog. But that's the exact opposite of what you want.
This is fine. Play the space. This is kind of where you transition into live mode, right? Okay, I just baited the dive myself. I can live this. It's fine. I would just avoid fighting in the bubble there personally. But honestly, this is fine. This is the most value that we've had in the last 45, 50 seconds. You baited the dive, you lived the dive, you fought on space that was good for you, and then you're pursuing your advantage once you see that it's actually an advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're good. Okay, Tracer's here. You could have dealt with Tracer because you were already there. That would have been fine. You can also deepen forward. Your choice. Just be decisive. This is too much. Too much respect. Too much respect. You've seen her use blinks. You've seen her take damage. The fight is going. We need value now. We need value now. Still, you notice that it's so much effort and attention into space that where you're not even positioned well for it, and basically always on your backline, never taking any space. Like this Ashe legitimately could be like platinum, and honestly wouldn't even matter. She has been under zero pressure this game.
Yeah, she could have just fallen asleep and she would have been fine.
And it's not because, oh, Lucio has to focus Ashe, it's a target priority. It's the fact that there hasn't been any pressure at all. Any character under that little pressure is going to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it. Like, look at your ult charge, right? Good touch. Really good touch. I do it again. Oh, disaster. That's okay. The initial touch was good. Okay, let's take some notes here. So, fairly straightforward. So, for you, let's focus on what habits need to be developed, okay? Got a couple of them for you. Mentality, practice habits to make training more fun, less frustrating. We talked about some of those potential suggestions, but I want that to be kind of an open-ended one that you have to apply. Okay?
Okay.
Studying high-level Lucio play and analyzing it for their mistakes, strengths, and positions that you can utilize or learn from. So don't just go and watch Lucio play. I don't even think you need to watch much. Do it for fun. Like, really, do it for fun. Just, 10 minutes once a week.
Yeah.
Look at a Lucio VOD. Study what they do, what they could have done better, Think about their composition or what angles they're taking, if it's replicatable or not. All right? Next one would be more like specific stuff for you to practice. This is where I want your help here. What do you got? What needs to be practiced?
Committing to angles and not just falling back once there's no obvious value, trying to deepen or go somewhere that's close. Instead
of peeling off, the question of downtime and what space you lose. Because the other thing as well is, like, once you go back, it's really hard to go back. Right? When you have right space and then you go to your backline, it's really hard to go back and take right space because defender's advantage. Now they have it and you have to walk into them. It's much harder.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how easy it is to deny a Winston diving on the right angle and then having to walk back into that. I mean, you just can't. You can't walk back into the tank space. You have to be there in the first place. Okay.
Yeah.
Thinking. Okay. What else? What else you
got? Being more confident in fighting people. Because I'm a one trick, in theory, I should be better than everyone in the lobby on average. So I can 1v1 most people. I should be more confident doing it.
I'm going to push you harder than that. What information do you need to track to know that you should be confident in taking a duel? Focus on the basics.
If they're expended cooldowns or the positioning's really favoring me.
Cooldown tracking, 2v1 or not, etc. That's it. Now people go, oh, how do I practice cooldown tracking? Who's on your angle?
Look at their cooldown tracking, you think about it.
Who's on your angle, right? That's it. You don't have to track 5 people's cooldowns. You just need to track Tracer's cooldowns, if that's the person you're tracking. If there's an Ashe on your angle, does she have Dynamite? Right? Winston, Bubble? Right? That's all you need to track. It's just whoever's there. And if you're not sure, assume that they do. Until otherwise, play it slow, play it cautious. Then make your decision from there. If it's a 2v1, you just need to live. Hold the space, but live. That's all there is. So when we talk about confidence in duels, it's not just like a psychological thing. It's giving yourself confidence by actually tracking the variables that matter.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like saying, I'm confident I'm going to hit this back squat. How much weight are you squatting? I don't know. I'm just confident. Like what? Like what kind of moron are you? Like you build confidence from information, right? And so you need to allow yourself the relevant information, which in this case is not 50,000 things. It's just, I'm on this flank. This Sombra has just used virus. I can take this. I can handle this. Oh no, Ball just showed up. I need to live. Okay, Ball's left. Wait, now I have a mercy pocket? Okay, you're dead now, right? It's like all those the ones that are relevant to you. Okay, beats. Beat generally shouldn't shift your positioning mindset much, and lack of amp should change how aggro. That one kind of ties into the second point. I'm actually not going to add that one. That's, again, just what's the status of my HP, my cooldowns, and so on. Okay, anything else that you'd put in here?
Wasting boop. And that VOD, I didn't realize how bad my boop usage was in that VOD. It was really terrible.
I mean, there's a really fun week of practice where like 2 games out of every daily grind that you just devote to just wind away boop. You don't even really think about your mechanics or your positioning. You just focus on like really nailing the boop timing depending on what you're going versus.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. You know, you don't have to try hard for it, so go ahead.
There's something I have a question about.
Yeah,
when it comes to like practicing things, like lately I said I've been practicing just focusing on taking angles.
Yes.
Do you think that I should just commit to practicing just that until I feel like I'm really good at it? Or should I be like, okay, I'm practicing angles for a while, but now I'm going to think about boop for a little while. And now I'm going to go back to think about angles. And now I'm going to think about beat usage. And I'm going to think about angles again. Or should I just commit to one thing until it's good?
I think committing to one thing till it's good is just a lesson in failure. Like you're just not going to make enough progress to ever feel happy with it. And I think ultimately what makes practice productive is novelty. So if you're bored, you're not practicing very well. So what I would recommend is I would say change it up as much as you'd like. I generally practice different things on the same day.
Oh, really?
So I'll have like a boop game or a positioning game. Sometimes I'll even change it up depending on how the match is going. So I did a lot of Hazard not too long ago, and I would put a lot of emphasis on positioning when the map or composition I was playing versus was pretty tricky. And I put a lot of emphasis on cover usage and wall usage when there was like a lot of CC, because that was like the most bang for my buck. And I think like that's something that could be tricky to do, but like that, it was a lot more fun. It was just a lot more fun. Because if you force yourself to like, I have to fix this boot problem, you're going to be there for weeks, you're going to be there for months, you're going to make very little progress because you're going to be bored out of your mind. And yeah, just mix it up. Mix it up.
Yeah.
Yep. Novelty with practice is crucial. Good question. Any other questions?
This isn't about my gameplay specifically, but you mentioned that you coached Spitfire, and it made me think.
Yeah.
Spitfire was the team that invented the strat on King's Row attack where they go behind them and they run up to the high ground, right?
That was Gladiators. That was a great memory.
That was Gladiators? Oh, I thought that was Spitfire. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
So I was going to
yeah,
ask if you had a part in that. I thought that was Spitfire.
No. I had a part in Spitfire. Was a team that we were the ones that ran a lot of Rhine and a hard dive meta start of Overwatch 2.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Flank Soldier, flank May, playing Lucio BAP. Coached a lot of Lucio versus dive and weird brawl hybrids. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. All right, man. If questions